Go right ahead.
Okay, right. Hello, welcome everybody. Thank you so much for coming and really appreciate our alumni to come take the time to come. So to start us out, I was just going to ask each alumni to introduce themselves. Just give us your name, tell us when you graduated, and then just I'm gonna ask you several questions, but just for this time, just put your name, your when you graduated, the name of the agency you work at, your position, and we're just going to start off with that. And Kate, I was going to have you go first.
Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Kate Morales. I graduated in the class of 2022 from URI. I currently work for Brown University Health and I'm a talent acquisition coordinator.
All right. And Kate, just tell us what that is.
In summary, it's basically where I onboard all of the people that are incoming to be employees at Brown University Health.
Okay, awesome. All right. And then Melissa, I was going to ask you next.
Hi, I'm Melissa Camilleri. I just graduated in May 2024 and I work for Child and Family in Middletown and I'm a state pre-K teacher.
Okay. And so you had a double major, Melissa?
I did. I double majored in human development and psychology.
Okay. And what about the teaching certificate to teach? Did you not need that?
No, but I'm currently back in school, getting my certifications right now.
All right. Kristen, can you go next?
Kristen Brady. I graduated my undergrad in 2012 and my master's from URI in human development in 2014. And I am currently the program manager of, this is a mouthful, the Washington County Health Equity Zone, which is also known as Healthy Bodies, Healthy Minds, which is an initiative through the Rhode Island Department of Health.
Okay. And then, so what do you do at Wood River? What's Wood River?
So Wood River is our backbone agency. They're our fiscal agent and provide some additional support to us administratively. They are a community health agency in Hopkinton.
Okay. Suzanne.
Hi, thanks for having me. My name is Suzanne Carson. I graduated in 2008. I currently am the Director of Case Management over here at Tri-County Community Action Agency. We specifically coordinate in-home services for seniors and adults with disabilities.
Okay, I do want to tell the students that Kristen is going to be checking the chat. So if you want to ask a question, you could raise your hand if she will catch you raise your hand, or you could put in the chat and we will be reading your questions. Please ask questions if I don't cover something. All right, so back to our alumni. What we want to, the students right now, they're mostly seniors on here. A lot of them are. And what happens is they're excited to graduate, but they're off so nervous because they don't know what they want to do. And we always say, like, our major, if you're going to be a teacher, you go out and be a teacher. If you're going to be an engineer, you go to school, you're an engineer, but you don't come out as an HGF. Like, that's not like a thing. So there's many open opportunities. So can you take us back to that kind of senior year, graduating, not really sure what to do? What were like the first steps? And I'll start with Kate again.
So I felt the same way when I graduated. I didn't really know what I was going to do. I at first didn't know I was going to start off in human resources. So right after school, I just started applying to a bunch of hospitals and doctors' offices because I knew I wanted to do something in the healthcare field. And the first job I got actually was in HR, and it was at Charter Care Health Partners, which, if you don't know, it's the organization that owns Our Lady of Fatima Hospital and Roger Williams Medical Center. So I started off as a human resource information system specialist. So I was in charge of building position codes for each specific job. It was very techy. And then I saw an opportunity that opened up in talent acquisition, and I'm a people person, so I missed communicating with people because I worked on the back end of HR. So I really liked talking to people and new hires, and I decided to take a position in talent acquisition, and I started off as a specialist there as well.
So did you have apprehension of taking a position? So it sounds like that first job wasn't like your life's dream job, but
Right,
like, so a lot
exactly.
of students say that now. They're like, do I just take something? So what did you just say? I'm just going to go for it just to get in.
Yeah, I just basically was like, oh, this sounds interesting. I'm going to take it just to get my foot in the door. Every place that I've applied to values experience a lot, and it's something that's very important to them once you're getting in to apply to different positions. So I just was like, yes, I'll take it so I can get some experience, and if I can learn new things while I'm in this position, then that's even better for me. So when I saw that position open up, I said, you know what, let me just accept this because it sounds interesting as well. And I wanted to learn something new too. And I didn't know that there was going to be many departments in human resources too. So I just was like, let me get my foot in the door and see what I can learn here.
Kristen, can you take us back to that? Just first getting out of school, not knowing what to do.
Sure. So when I was an undergrad in my last year, I really didn't know what I was going to do. So I went to grad school. Even though I didn't know what I was going to do, I said, I'll figure it out in grad school. Um, and I didn't figure it out in grad school. I got more confused. I learned a lot and I had a lot of great connections that I made there, but I didn't come out of grad school either with like a solid plan of what my future was going to look like. So my career actually started at URI. I was hired from my master's internship at the Osher Lifelong Learning Institute, which is located on the bottom of campus, which is a lifelong learning program for older adults 50 plus. And I did a needs assessment for them and a focus group for them. And at the time, there were only 2 full-time employees, and I loved it so much. And I was like, I wish you could hire me. And they were like, we really can't. But I stayed in touch with them, and I did a couple of kind of like consulting things. I guess technically, now that I look back at it, it was consulting, but I didn't know that's what it was at the time. And eventually they actually were able to hire me as their operations manager. So I took a little bit of time off actually after even grad school just to kind of figure out what was going on. And that was my first role, which I loved. And then I moved to Massachusetts, um, had a role at a university because I thought that's what I liked, the higher ed piece. And turns out that was not what I liked about it. I liked working with older adults. So I stayed in that role only for about a year, and pivoted, and then was the program and volunteer coordinator at a council on aging, which is kind of the equivalent of a senior center located at one of the community centers up outside of Boston. And I was doing a lot of similar work, but it was a big career jump for me, to have a lot more responsibility and some skills that I didn't know that I had and just kind of got thrown into, and was promoted to assistant director there. I also loved that job. And then I moved back to Rhode Island.
Oh,
And then I took almost a whole year off, just to kind of see what was going on with jobs in Rhode Island. I was really lucky to have that ability. I did a little bit of consulting for my last job after I left, and I just kind of stumbled upon the role that I'm in, which I also really love. I had actually accepted a different job at a different organization and found this role and had started that other job, and applied to this one and got it and ended up leaving that other job because I felt like this was a better fit. So there's been a lot of kind of movement around, but I'm glad that I'm now back in Rhode Island, I will say.
But Kristen, I mean, students, we did not set this up. I just want to hear what Kristen said. I mean, she just went plan A didn't work. She went to B didn't work. And we try to tell you this is kind of something that's going to happen. And it seems like you gain from every position along the way. And then just Kristen, quickly, before I go to the next alumni, a lot of students feel pressure to go to grad school right away, especially like if they're with people that are all applying. But some students I know as an advisor, they don't know what to apply for. They just think they're just going to go. So what is your recommendation? Like, is it something, I know that's what you did, but is it okay they take a year off? Like, do they have to have this pressure to go right to school if they're not exactly sure what they want to do?
Person dependent. I think for me, my life would have looked a lot different if I didn't go directly to grad school. I personally think that it was the best move for me to gain um, confidence in what I was doing. A lot of grad school is just kind of like throwing you into something, but a lot of first jobs are just throwing you into something. So I may have gained that elsewhere as well, but I will also say in grad school, I met a lot of different I connected with a lot of resources that I'm glad I had when I decided to enter the workforce. But I think everybody's different and depends on how motivated you are. I knew I had an idea of what I wanted to do, but I just didn't know how to execute it, I guess was the right way to say it. So that's why grad school really felt like a good fit for
For
me.
you. Okay, that sounds good. All right, I'm going to jump to Suzanne.
So, back in 2008, if I remember correctly, I really had no experience in anything. So I really just applied anywhere, and did interviews with any agency that would, call me back. I ended up at, Rhode Island Meals on Wheels was my first position, doing intake for the, meal program. Um, I should say though, when I was at URI, I did want to do childhood development, but in terms of like time wise and getting my degree, I just went the general track. So elders and seniors were not a demographic that I actually had any interest in, as I thought, or experience in. So I kind of went a totally different way of what I thought I was going to be doing. So with Meals on Wheels, I stayed there for about 3 years. A position opened at that agency under case management. So I did switch to that division, and I really liked being out in the field, dealing with people in their homes. And then the state had a contract with that particular agency, and they switched agencies to have that contract. And it ended up being Tri-County, where I am now. When I came to Tri-County, I didn't come under case management. I came under, I did the Medicare counseling role. So that was totally, I knew nothing about Medicare. And I just kind of learned it. And then I did that for a few years, and then I switched to more administrative, policy. And then I did in 2018, I got my master's from Salve for healthcare administration and management. I will say my experience was different than Kristen's. I felt like because I had some years in the field when I was at grad school, a lot of the concepts that they were talking about and I was learning were things that I was already happening in my work. So I really could piece things together. That degree was more like hospital based, which, and not community based like I was, but a lot of like the different concepts within that was really helpful, because I was out in the field for so long.
Okay.
Um,
And do
so now with
you,
my master's, I moved up into, within the same department, but moved up positions. And now I am the director of the entire department. We have about maybe 4 or 5 different programs, which I've also done case management under. I kind of know everything, and have a different viewpoint and I think that's what really makes me, a director, because I know it from different angles. I know what the case managers are experiencing, and then I know it from, a different level as well.
so you went case manager and then to the director position, which you have now.
Assistant director, then director.
Okay, and then just, sometimes students ask, if you take a break and go to grad school, can you still get back into school? Some students think if they take too much time off, they won't want to get back into the routine of homework but was you just kind of get back into it when you're away from it? It wasn't like a huge deal.
Um, I think my hesitation at first was taking, the MCAS or taking any type of standardized test to get into grad school. The Salve program did not have, they actually waived that with my experience. Yeah, I'm sorry, I lost track.
No, that's good. So you just kind of waiting for the opportunity. Then when you went to grad school, you
Mhm.
just jumped right in and it wasn't like, I don't know what to do, or you just had to figure it out.
Um, Luckily it was night classes, so I just kind of made it into my schedule and somehow survived through it. And then sometimes you just kind of glide through things, but I think I was really fortunate to have a position here at Tri-County to be able to make that flexibility happen. I mean, it really, the agency that I work for is extremely flexible with schedules, and that really helped me get my master's.
Okay, sounds good. We do have some students that intern with Tri-County, and we actually,
Oh.
Kristen, we had Oli come to our class, and we have our first senior internship at Oli this year too. All right, Melissa.
So I was very fortunate, and after our practicum at the CDC, I discovered my love for working with children and childhood development. So for my senior internship last year, I went right back to the CDC in Providence, and I interned and I TA'd there for the spring semester. And after graduation, I had no idea where I wanted to go because I didn't think that teaching was even an option until I started looking at like what the requirements were. And then I applied to Child and Family for their state funded pre-K, and I got the job, and I'm now back at Rick because they have an online graduate studies program to get your teaching certifications, and it's definitely a great alternative because I didn't feel ready to go back to school for my master's yet, just because I wanted to put my feet in the water and figure out what was working for me. So my step, instead of going for my master's, was doing the graduate studies program instead. Um, which is still great. It's fully asynchronous and everything. So it makes it great for me to work and continue school at the same time, but I'm not doing the whole master's yet. Just because like for me, I felt like a break was the best option, but
So this is this is just a certification to be licensed so that you could be a Rhode Island early childhood certified.
yeah. So I'll be certified in early education and early special education from pre-K through third grade. So
All right, awesome. All right, thank you. And then I'm gonna ask this next question, and then Melissa, I'll just start with you because you've been last all the time, so we'll swap it up. So in our field of human service science, human services, we talk to students a lot about fatigue in the field and just like there's so much responsibility. And all the seniors, they see how busy their supervisors are and the different like hats people have to wear. So could you just comment on our field and all the different parts to it? And is there something to being tired in this field or just being emotionally involved in people's lives? Or just how do you feel about that kind of working in the human sciences services now that you've been doing it for a long time? And Melissa, I'll start with you.
yeah, so I work with lower income families primarily, and I also have a lot of students with disabilities in my classroom. So I'm very involved, like working with their parents, working with them, other staff members from public schools for their IEPs and such. And one big thing for me that I've had to learn to do with coming right out of school, going into work, is really separating like my own life from my work life, because I began to find myself bringing home like what was happening at school with my students and their families and what they were dealing with at home, and like bringing that home with me was a huge issue I had when I first started working. So learning like the separation of your work life and your home life was something like I had to take the time to learn when I first started working. But there are definitely days I come home and I feel like very drained, and I have outlets to help me, like going to the gym is one of my favorite things, seeing friends, or like just even just trying to wind down, like take a shower and watch a movie. But having like those outlets has been the most helpful thing for me when starting like working in this field.
All right, thank you. Suzanne?
So, I will say that really working for an agency that recognizes the burnout and that the possibility of it, and my agency offers sick time, and that sick time you can use as mental health days. So, that's really nice. It is hard to separate a lot, especially with working with people who are in vulnerable positions. But I think also as a group, as a department, other staff can talk to each other. And I think that's really helpful too, even though it's super stressful, everyone's all in the same boat. But I think really, taking that time, and having an agency that, recognizes that this can be, a stressful situations and give the time to, kind of decompress.
Kristen?
Yeah, I'll mirror what Suzanne said. It's really important the organization that you choose to work in. They can really make or break your stress levels for you. And it's good to know the type of person you are. And if you tend to take on too much in your personal life, you're probably going to be doing that in work as well. And something I will say, kind of on the positive side of how enmeshed your life becomes a little bit with some of this work, right? Like we're here to help people. We all feel really strongly about that. I'm assuming that's why we chose this career field. But there's a lot of things that I do in my role that I would be doing whether or not I was being paid to do it or not. So there are events that I host that I would be attending or helping as a volunteer with out in the community, whether or not this were my paid position or not. So sometimes that makes it even trickier, right? Because a lot of my personal life does intersect with my professional life. So sometimes when people see me, they don't know if I'm volunteering in my personal capacity or if I'm there with my work hat on. So I have to really remember that part too. But especially with everything going on in the world right now, something that's been really helpful is being a part of this system where we are all kind of going through this burnout together and supporting each other. And I think culturally, that has not always been the case for these type of helping professions, but I've really seen, even just being in this field for 15 years, the shift towards making sure that we're supporting each other at work.
Kate?
Yeah, I agree. I've been very fortunate enough to work with a team that we all support each other. We can vent to one another if something's going on. My boss is actually very good with that as well. She hears us out all the time. So that was something that really I love about my job, is that we all understand where we're coming from, because HR is not a very well liked department sometimes. So it can get hard. And especially with me and one of my other coworkers, we onboard all of the Spanish speakers as well, because we speak Spanish. So it can be really hard sometimes when we're onboarding them, because they don't understand English. They don't know how to do certain things that we need them to do. It was really hard. I mean, first, just like Melissa, on what to separate from work. I would always check my emails at home, and I know I shouldn't be doing that. But I am fortunate enough that I have a team that we're all supportive of each other. So I think that's worked as well.
Okay, thank you. So this next question, we don't feel like you have to say yes, because I do teach in the HDF department, but did HDF prepare you for your jobs, maybe the beginning jobs or now? Can you remember how taking classes in HDF and the different professors and the things that you learned in the classes? Did you feel like you were prepared for those first jobs or what you're doing now? And Suzanne, I'll start with you.
So, I think in my position doing case management, I think the documentation part of it, how to write really good notes, kind of more social work type things. That's where I kind of felt like I lacked a little bit through HTF. But other than that, I think I got, knowing people's life cycles and, how, people grow older. I think that really helped me. But I think, doing case management, I would say that my biggest thing that I lacked, I felt like, versus a social worker was, the note taking.
Now, did you have a senior internship when you went? Did HF have a senior internship when you were 16 years ago? You did have to do senior.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't remember. I think I just found a place. I don't remember getting a list of potential
Options and
agencies.
stuff like that,
I
yeah.
just, no,
Yeah.
I just went to an agency. I went to West Bay Community Action Agency, and that was like right down my street. So, yeah,
We have improved. Now the
I
students
hope so.
they take a 1 credit course that helps them search a little bit. So we want them to think about it. And then the next semester because that's kind of just what you said. Examples like that would happen. Not everyone's getting those experiences, but that's good. Melissa.
I feel like HDF did for like the majority of what I learned, like all of the early development courses were really helpful. And believe it's 308 that goes along with the practicum. That was the most helpful course for me because everything I learned in that class I'm utilizing today. And also my background with psychology as well has been super helpful. And I think just like the practicum and the internship were two great experiences to prepare me for my career today and where I want to continue going. So,
Kristen.
So the number of times I use the phrase social determinants of health in my job is insane. Seriously. So I would say absolutely yes. And I think when I was first starting out in my career and when I was in different positions, particularly working more in gerontology, I don't think I realized how much I was applying theories and concepts because it feels so intangible, right? Like you're learning these theories and it's not like a direct application, but your understanding of people's development and how the world works for people or doesn't work for people is going to change how you present in that role. Whereas somebody else, I think sometimes you take for granted the stuff you know.
That's good. It's true. I think that's very true. And then Kate.
I think HDF did prepare me as well. I find myself thinking about a lot of classes that I did take before, and about certain things that we learned. I did really like the HDF major. I also double majored. I did health studies as well. So I think they went really well hand in hand together.
Sounds good. All right, can you think back to did you ever get stumped at an interview? Was there a question, or if you interview now, what can these students that are all going to be interviewing probably May, June, July, some in August, how could they prepare for an interview? Or again, think of, did you get stumped, or when you interview now, what do you look for? Can you give them some tips on interviewing, which they're all going to be practicing soon? And then Suzanne, I was going to start with you.
Sure. I would probably say from the viewpoint of being the interviewer, what I look for, even with so in terms of like experience, look at your job, I look at job experience, but I also take into account life experience because that has a lot of value. I think just being yourself and being confident. Um, I would say what I look for, because I want to say I took a class about, I think at URI for interviewing and doing job search and things like that. And I will say like the little things matter to employers. So if if you're really interested in a position and you don't hear back from an employer, I would highly recommend to email them or email the HR, follow up, because that really shows interest. The amount of applications we get sometimes are daunting. So adding little notes or sending follow-up emails. The other thing too is once you're done with your interview and you really like the position, I would also suggest to send a thank you email. Um, I haven't done many interviews myself because I've stayed in the same agency, but I feel like little things like that, when I sent a thank you card to the person that I interviewed with, I really think that helped my chances. It really made me stand out.
Yeah, okay, sounds good. Okay, Kate.
Yeah, I agree with Suzanne. Being in talent acquisition, I get to see a lot of resumes, and I get to hear from recruiters as well. the questions that they ask certain candidates depending on the position. But Suzanne is right. A thank you email goes a long way. It puts you, if nobody else does it, it puts you in first in line. They do value that a lot. I think just being positive in the interview as well. Any question that they ask, even if you just put a smile on your face, it goes a long way. The positivity really does help. I'm trying to think of a question that I got asked, but if they really just ask you like about the experience that you have. They also, some managers like to ask you what you like to do in your free time, so that's nice. But yeah, positivity I think goes a long way.
And Kate, what would a thank you say? Just give us a quick, what's something they put in a thank you?
I would just say like thank you so much for giving me the time. I really appreciate your consideration. And I look forward to hearing from you soon. Something like that, I would
Just
say.
quick, like just a small, couple sentences is fine, right?
Yes, short and sweet.
Okay, Melissa.
So one of my big things, I agree with everything Suzanne said, like being positive, that's like a huge part. And then also sending a thank you after meeting with them. That's something I did after all of my interviews. And one thing my boss, she asked me a lot throughout my interview, she'd put me in like a hypothetical situation. And that's something that's very common in our field. Like, oh, say this happened in your classroom, what would you do? And I had to then give her an answer. And she continued to ask why I would do things to kind of hear my own knowledge in like what I've learned in school. So I think also just doing a little extra research before you go into your interview is super important of your role, the like people you're going to be working with, the company or agency you're going to work for. Kind of having all of that knowledge prior is super important, because another thing like my boss asked me to is like things about the agency that I work for, and having that knowledge prior was really, really helpful.
Excellent. And then Kristen.
I love what Melissa just said. So what I was gonna remind folks is that it's a two-way conversation. Usually when we're applying for jobs, right? Like we really want a job, we really need a job, but you're vetting them as much as they are vetting you. So you want to do your research, not just to prove that you have checked all the boxes and you know what you're doing, but to come up with really good questions, right? Like, what do you want to know about this job and this role and these people? And so that you know that you're going to be actually happy there. And that's something that every interviewer I've ever had has said to me afterwards, that they felt like I already worked there because of the types of questions that I asked. They felt like I was an employer or an employee already, asking how to like make improve or suggesting how to make improvements. So I think that that's important because it helped me figure out, right, like, what is this organization like? All your interactions with people, like, are they actually organized? Like, do they know what they're doing? How do they communicate? Can I learn something from these people? Are these people fun? Are they friendly? Does that matter to me? Can I show up as myself here? I think are really important questions for me, less important maybe for other people, but those have always been really important for me, and I think why I've been really happy in my roles.
So it sounds like the four of you are saying it's not like people are looking to catch you to say the wrong thing in interview. It's more like, and it's not really the exact answer. It's what is your thinking? So maybe students out there, they're looking to see, like, how did you get to this suggestion, or how did you get to this answer? All right, so kind of in our society now, there's always like this thinking that if you make a mistake, it's like a huge big deal in life. So I'm going to ask the four of you, can you tell us when you made a mistake in work and you fixed it and you got solutions, and it wasn't, the whole world didn't crash down, like you were able to get support and you learned from it, so students have this thinking like one thing is going to throw you off, or just kind of this learning process that you're always learning. So can you think of a time when you messed something up and you got support and fixed it? And I was going to start with you, Melissa.
So obviously it's my first year at a big girl job and my first year being like a lead teacher. So I've made plenty of mistakes. And when I've made them, I did in fact think my whole world was gonna end. I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna like lose my job. But in reality, all that I've done is like I've talked to one of my bosses about it and been like, hey, like this happened today. What can I do to improve? And to kind of show my bosses like I'm able to recognize and acknowledge a mistake I might have made, or that I'm looking for a better way to do something. And I think it's really important, like going into a job in general, is like forming that relationship with not only your coworkers, but like your bosses and such, because they will guide you in the right direction. Like one thing my boss told me when she hired me, she's like, I want to continue to teach you how to become great at this job. And that's something she does very well for me. So I can't give one specific because there's been quite a
Okay.
handful, but just having that communication with other people that you work with, and they will help you and guide you in the right direction when you need it.
Okay, Kate?
Yeah, so I'm fortunate enough to have a really good relationship with my boss and my supervisor. We are always in constant communication. A specific example I can give you that just happened to me not that long ago. So I onboard a lot of registered nurses and certified nursing assistants, and I can't have them start without a CPR card. So long story short, for one of my RNs, I accepted the incorrect CPR card and I had her start. So I went to my supervisor about it and I was like, hey, like, can you confirm with me what correct CPR card I need for this specific position? And she let me know which one it was. And I was like, well, I made a mistake. I had this RN start with the incorrect CPR certification. And so she quickly sent an email to the orientation leader, and then we were just in communication about it. So what I did was, as soon as I realized that I made that mistake, I communicated to my supervisor about it, and I was like, hey, like I need to fix this right now. And I thought I was gonna lose my job. I was like, oh my God, I can't believe I did this. But we all make mistakes, and my supervisor always tells us as well. She says, we all make mistakes. It's human. You're not going to get punished for it. As long as you learn from your mistakes, you'll be fine. So I do have great support with that as well.
Excellent. Okay, Suzanne.
So I'm gonna definitely agree with Kate of the concept of you learn from your mistakes. I mean, I've made a lot of mistakes throughout my career, but acknowledging them and learning from them has always been, that's what makes you better. Nobody's perfect and we all want to be perfect, but in reality, it's okay to make mistakes and it's okay to recognize them and to learn and really to learn from them. Yeah, we're all just human and also, sometimes so with my staff, if you're a case manager and you make a mistake, say with a client, the best, or you don't know something, the best thing you can do is just be honest and, tell them about the mistake and how you're going to fix it. So everything is figure outable, right? Is that a quote?
Yes, we know exactly what you
Um,
mean.
Yep. So, I mean, yeah.
Okay, that sounds good. Okay, and then Kristen.
I don't have much to add to that. I've made a million mistakes. I swore at my interview by accident and didn't even know it. And years later, they told me that I swore and that's why they liked me. I don't recommend doing it though, but we all make mistakes. It's so true. And I think that it makes us kinder people to each other because then we can recognize and forgive others too when they make a mistake. I think it's really important that we make sure that we're maintaining the culture that we want to have. And I think especially in this field, you will probably always be working with mostly kind people, which is really nice about the human services field.
All right, thank you. Students, do you have anything you want to ask? Or they're very easy to talk to, as you can tell. I don't know if there's anything in the chat, or does anybody want to ask anything?
There is, Phyllis, there's a question while
Okay.
we're on the topic of interviewing. If you're presented with a question about a hypothetical situation, which we also call behavioral questions, during an interview and you don't know how to respond, do you have a good backup response that you keep in your back pocket? Or what are your thoughts on if you're, kind of freezing in your interview and you don't really know how to
Right.
respond? Does
Okay,
anybody have that
excellent.
situation?
I'll pick Kate first.
Yeah, so I've had that happen to me a couple of times. I think I just basically try to, if that does happen to me, I try to go into my memory and I try to like go through everything that I've been through, like my experience and everything. So I guess I just rely on my memory for that. And usually come up with something. I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. I did go through this or I did go through that. So to me, at least, I rely on my experience for that if I do get stuck on a question like that.
Sounds good. Melissa?
My response would be very similar to Kate's. Like in my interview for my job, I had that actually happen to me. My boss put me in a situation and I was like, I need a minute just to like process and think. And then I just had to fully rely on memory to get me through it. So
Kristen?
I think trying to anticipate as many of those type of scenarios as you can in advance really, really helps. You don't have to like map it out so that you've recited it, but looking through kind of doing that in advance. I always look through my resume before I go to an interview just to kind of remind myself what I've done in some examples. And like Melissa and Kate said, you can always also ask to come back to a question. Just be like, I can't think of anything. I'm so sorry, but there's stuff. So like, let me come back to it. And that's again just a part of being human, and also your response showing that you don't want to just give like a non-answer answer or a poor answer. That idea of asking for a moment or a pause or just coming back to the question at the end. Sometimes they forget to come back to the question. It's also a sneaky little trick.
Suzanne?
I think also too is to say if you don't know how you would, if you haven't had an experience that you know how to say how you would respond, you could definitely say something like, if I was in that experience, this is what I would do. If you haven't had those types of experiences, I would definitely go that route is kind of make a suggestion of how you think you might handle it if you haven't actually had that experience.
That's excellent. I just want to go on what Suzanne said. I would say something like, oh, I haven't specifically had that happen to me, but when I was in class, we had this case study, or I know something very similar to that, but definitely, tie into something to bring in some of your knowledge, even if it's not like the exact. So those are some tips. Kristen, I think I saw some more questions.
Me too. We have a couple more questions. And then to add, as someone that works in the Career Center, it's important if you're going to be in person, print out a copy of your resume. Sometimes that's really helpful if you're really nervous. You can kind of look down and remind yourself of what your experience is.
Yeah, good advice.
Can
Bring
I
your
say
resume to
something
the
about that?
interview. Yeah.
I will say if you apply through like an Indeed, my agency uses Indeed for applications. The applications that we get through Indeed are not I'm sorry, the resumes are not the resumes, your actual resume. So I would highly recommend to definitely bring in a copy of your resume, because the chances of the agency might not have it is pretty high. I learned that the hard way.
What do you mean, Suzanne? They don't get it, or students input information?
Just however, Indeed takes that information and gives it to the employer, it just puts it in a totally different
Okay,
format.
okay, that's good to
Mhm.
know.
Mhm.
Yeah, so you'll want to print out a couple of copies if you know who, sometimes in an interview, they'll tell you who's on the docket, who you're going to be meeting with. And so you can print out a number of different copies to kind of give to other people. Whether or not they take it, that's fine, but just being able to offer that you're prepared and hand them a copy is always good. So we actually have three different questions. Phyllis, I'll let you kind of divvy out what those look like, just thinking about time for the panel.
Yeah, so
So
Kristen, maybe okay, maybe I can just ask two, if I have a couple of questions, we can just say one question, two people, and just handle more questions. How's that?
sure.
Okay,
All right. So one of them is, did you have a favorite course or course you felt that stood out and helped you prepare for the field?
Melissa.
I personally really tried to gravitate towards taking classes I thought I would like genuinely find interesting or were like towards my career path. Because for me, my end goal is to be a school psychologist. So teaching is like my first step. So I took a lot of the counseling courses that HDF offers. I took all of the like early childhood development courses. So really just trying to find those classes that you think you might find more interesting. Because I think there's a lot of like great courses HDF has to offer. So
Okay,
Yeah, I will say, so my favorite course was actually I forget who taught it, but it was like a learning how to be a therapist course. And I know that's not what I went into, but it was something great to learn from and get to experience it yourself. I remember I had a partner and we each had to take a turn being the therapist for one another. And I thought it was pretty cool because it was like kind of something you got to see into like a field that you might be interested in. And I actually really liked that course. It was great to learn how people think and questions you could ask people as well. So I really liked that course.
she's probably thinking of HF 450, which the
Yes,
student probably, yeah, okay.
yes.
All right, next question, Kristen.
What is something you wish you knew before starting in the workforce?
Kristen, do you want to take that one?
Sure. So a couple of things. Number one being that you don't need to have all of the skills before you start the job. I think all of this, especially Suzanne's story about how she's made it to director level, right? Like you don't need to have all these skills before you get into your role. A lot of these things you learn as you go and bring them to other jobs. Sometimes you learn them within the same organization and you bring them to other positions. You don't have to know how to do everything perfectly. Don't limit yourself before you even start. So I always say, just like apply for a job and just see what happens because you never know. I wrote a piece of legislation last month. I've never done that before. I did it and there it is in the state house. So you just don't really know until you try to do something. I didn't know, I didn't get trained in doing that. I just kind of learned from all of my past careers. And the other thing that I wish I knew is that like no one really has it figured out. It seems like people do. It might seem like all four of us do, but I shouldn't speak for other people, but it's a process. It really is. It's a journey. Your career is gonna evolve and it's gonna change, and maybe it won't. Maybe you'll stay in the same exact role forever, but I really suggest like saying yes to anything that feels really exciting. I've taken a million trainings that were not directly related to my role when they came up, and I've been able to apply them both to my roles in the future and also to my personal life. So I think that that's an important thing to remember is that like we are all truly just learning as we go as well.
Suzanne, can you add anything to that?
I think just to be patient. I think really your hard work, it might not pay off. You might not reap the benefits of it, but I can definitely say that, especially being at an agency that recognizes it, but just, your hard work really goes a long way.
Kristen, Susan, any other questions?
Yes, one more. So how long did it take for you to adjust to a new role and become a professional for the first time?
Anybody want to take that one? All right, Melissa.
this is something, and I'm going to be completely honest that I struggled with a lot, like going from post grad to becoming like a working professional. And I will say it did take a little bit of time to get used to, just because you're so used to just going to class. If you have a job, you go to your side job and then you spend the rest of your time with friends or doing whatever you enjoy. But when you get into the adult life, you do very much get a more structured life. So it is an adjustment in that aspect, which is kind of outside of your job. But once you really figure it all out, like scheduling like work and your extracurriculars and things like that, it all becomes so much easier. And just like remembering like it's your first time, there's a first time for everything, and it's a whole new experience. And as scary as it is so exciting. So just being really open about it, and yeah.
Anyone else any other panelists want to answer that one? Okay. All right, so Kristen, any other questions? Because I had one last question if you have anything else.
None on my end.
All right, so I'll ask all four of you this question, and I'll start with Kate. What's something that you wish you knew before graduating college? Or is there a piece of advice you would just tell all these people out that are going into the workforce right now, like something you wish you knew before? Or what advice would you give them as they set out on their journeys? Most of them graduating in May, some graduating in August, and I noticed there are a few juniors in there too. I noticed when I looked around, but all right, Kate.
I would say I wish I knew how long it was going to take to find a job. I've experienced a lot was a lot of places wanted experience, and right out of college, you don't really necessarily have experience. I mean, you get internships here and there and stuff, but some of them are like 1 to 2 years of experience or something like that. So I had to be really patient when looking for a job and for someone to open up that door for me and give me a chance. What I will say is that anything you do, please put it on your resume. Talent acquisition looks at everything you put on your resume a lot, and no matter what you do, they base your compensation off of it sometimes. So any customer experience, anything you have, always update your resume. I update my resume about every 2 to 3 months just to keep it updated, but put anything on there because they will take a look at it, and it does go a long way no matter what you have.
Awesome. We've been encouraging the students in senior internship to have a master resume, which is everything on it. And then when they search for jobs, just pull off that master.
Yes, I would just say separate it by related experience, depending on what position you're applying to. I would put whatever correlates with the position you're applying to as related experience, and then separate the rest as other work experience.
Okay, related and other. Okay, sounds good. Kristen.
So that was going to be mine. I was going to say a tailored resume and cover letter, which feels like a full-time job, but it's worth it. The other thing I'm going to say that's like very practical, like mom advice, is sign up for a 401k or a 503b or whatever retirement that is offered. Sign up for it. You will thank yourself in 10 years, 50 years. Just do it. And then less tangible, I think, is to I know it sounds hokey, but like really trust the process. Like your little small decisions, you don't know where they're going to lead you to. And I think that's the most fun part about HDF is it feels really scary that like there isn't a path, but you have to open yourself up to how fun that actually ends up being. And you probably won't feel that way until you start doing it. But it's really fun and interesting to just kind of see how you create a path for yourself.
Okay. Suzanne.
So I would say sometimes it's best to know what you don't want to do before you know what you do want to do. And just try any try any experience, especially with populations. As I said before, I thought I was going to be early childhood development. I was going to have my own preschool. And then I just fell into, the older adult population and just fell in love with it. So, there's areas that I know that I would not excel in. So again, to know sometimes it's best to know what you don't want to do versus, what you do.
Excellent. And then Melissa.
Kind of based off of what Suzanne said, like it's great to have an idea of what you definitely don't want to do. Like I was the complete opposite. I knew I didn't want to work with the older population. So I found myself working with the younger ones. And I think a really important thing to like know when you're going from post-grad to working is every single person is doing something different. You are going to see some of your classmates doing all these different things that you are, and that is completely fine because we've all talked about it. No one really knows what exactly they're doing yet, and that is completely fine. And it's scary, but like I said, like it's a new experience. And one thing for me that I've learned a lot is like, don't be afraid to ask questions, whether it's like someone you're in an interview with or a friend, or when you start your job, your coworkers or your bosses, like don't be afraid to ask questions because it just shows that you want to keep learning more. And apply for jobs, even if it's something new, because it's a new experience. And if you don't like it, you tried it and you know that's something that you don't like at the end of the day. So
Good. Thank you so much. It's that invaluable experience that you brought. I'm just so proud of you. You're also professional and amazing. Thank you so much. Kristen, did you want to end with anything?
I think that's all we have. Thank you to the four of you so much for sharing your wisdom, your authenticity. I think that is really impactful for the students. A lot of the same tips that we would give in the Career Center as well. So amazing job. We didn't prep you for that, so I appreciate it when it's when it's mimicked without preparation. All right, with that, if there's no other questions, I think that's the end of our panel. I'm going to stop the recording. And again, we just really appreciate it, Phyllis, for your wonderful moderating, as always. Thank you, everyone, for being here.
All right, thank you. Bye,
Thank
Kristen.
you.